Ellen Pao versus the Silicon Valley venture capital firm Kleiner Perkins. A judge has ordered Pao to pay $276,000 in legal fees to her former employer after losing her gender discrimination lawsuit. Kleiner had asked the court for Pao to cover its nearly $1 million legal bill, but said today the ruling was fair. The case sparked debate about equality for women in business and especially the tech industry worldwide. I spoke to Kleiner's general partners John Doerr and Beth Seidenberg in an exclusive interview for tonight's Studio 1.0, their very first sit-down since the trial. I started by asking Doerr about his reaction to the verdict.
I'm sorry that it's been so hard for our entrepreneurs and my partners to go through this, but more than anything else, I'm sorry that it's hard for venture capital and minorities in the tech industry. Look, this is very personal. I have 2 daughters, and so getting to a 50-50 world where they and everyone can participate is super important.
So, John, Ellen is someone you personally brought into the firm. She was your chief of staff. You were her mentor. How did you feel when you found out she was suing you?
I was sick. It was painful. Ellen was a good chief of staff, but when I read the charges, I knew from that very moment that these had no merit.
How aware were you of the situation? Like, when she was there, how aware were you that she was unhappy?
You know, I'd rather not get into the past. Okay. Ellen did some really good things, and I wish her well at Reddit.
Now she's the CEO of Reddit. She's making some bold moves. Was she really not senior partner material?
It's important to look at the difference between being an operator or being an investor. And I think Ellen can be a really great CEO. I hope that she is. But to be a successful investing partner is a really different job.
Have you talked to her at all?
Only briefly in the trial.
What did you guys say?
I said, "Hi, Ellen. How's your family? How you doing?"
What'd she say?
Okay.
That's it?
That's it. I haven't spoken with her since.
Why didn't you try harder to settle?
I've always believed that this matter ought to be resolved outside the courts. Believe me, from the very beginning, and it just wasn't possible.
Ellen is proceeding with an appeal. She's asking for $2.7 million to walk away. Why not just pay her and be done with it?
If it were that easy, it would have been done. I will just tell you, it's not possible.
And we have tried.
Like, how hard did you try?
Very hard.
The details there are really not what matters.
Okay.
I think what matters is we've tried really hard, and it's not possible at this time.
Do you feel like if you pay her this $2.7 million, it's like an admission of guilt?
I'm sorry this happened to Ellen, that it happened to us, it happened to the tech industry. This isn't a question of guilt. It's a civil case, and so the question is liability. And
is it an admission of liability?
The jury found we're not liable after 5.5 weeks of testimony, so no, it's not.
I did reach out to Ellen Pao for comment, but she declined. Here with me now in the studio, Mar Hershenson of Pejman Mar Ventures and employment attorney Barbara Hui, a partner at Kelly Dry and Warren in New York. Mar, I want to start with you. What's your reaction to hearing what John Doerr has to say for the very first time, and Beth Seidenberg?
Well, I think you can see it's truly a sad episode. I think for all of us that this happened in the short term. I think in the long term, this is the land of optimism, and I think it will have a beneficial effect to all of us. You know, I think we're all talking about women in venture, women entrepreneurs, much more than we were like 2 years ago.
You know, it's interesting, Barbara, because the first thing that John Doerr said to me was, look, we know we won in court, but in the court of public opinion, we know they found against the venture industry, against the technology industry. We get that. You know, what do you make of his remarks today?
Look, Emily, many of my clients feel when they get into these cases that employment litigation is the most personal type of litigation there is. And a harassment claim is personal to both the plaintiff and the defendant. It's very emotional for both sides. It's more than just about money, and that's what I heard from John Doerr. It wasn't about money for him. It was about his reputation, his firm's reputation, and I think he feels, and that's why, reading between the lines, for him this wasn't something he could settle, at least at this juncture, was because his firm wasn't found liable. And so whether it's about paying $2.7 million or she paying $276,000, Kleiner Perkins was found not to have violated the law, discriminated against Ellen. And I read the judge's opinion, and I think that the award is more than about fees. The judge's award, I think he's trying to send a message. End this. This should be over. The verdict is final, and both sides should respect the verdict and move on. And I think
so.
That's
You're saying Ellen should drop her appeal?
I don't know the merits of her appeal. I think that what the judge was trying to do is send a message to Ellen that it is, I think, somewhat irrational for a plaintiff who's lost to demand the defendant pay them $2.7 million, that the jury, after hearing, I think, 5 or 6 weeks of testimony, determined that there was no merit to the case. They're the people who know the facts. We don't. I don't know the facts.
Okay,
the press
Barbara,
doesn't know all the facts. Yeah, sure.
Hang on, because that said, you know, this trial sparked so much debate in this industry. People like Sheryl Sandberg told me she saw herself in Ellen Pao. Mar, does it end here? I mean, this is a debate that is continuing to go on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it doesn't end, but we're in the right track. I was, you know, I think there's a lot of us here in the Valley that are trying to make it better, not just for women, but for for minorities. And, you know, I'm also a Latino woman, so it's a double whammy.
Do you think this will permanently tarnish Kleiner's reputation, or
no? You know, I'm a fairly optimistic person. I think this is the sort of thing they're working really hard to, you know, welcoming more women into the firm and, you know, starting again. So I think, you know, again, I'm pretty optimistic in general about what's going to happen, right? I just heard, and this is a good sign, you know, in the new CS class at Stanford will be 50% women. That's where we begin.
That's good news. Mar Hershenson, managing partner at Petrol Mar Ventures, and Barbara Hui, employment attorney. Thank you both so much for joining us. Kleiner is adding a new partner this summer, and they told me that partner is a woman. You can catch my full interview with John Doerr and Beth Seidenberg of Kleiner tonight on Studio 1.0, 7:30 p.m. Eastern and Pacific, right here on Bloomberg Television.